Hi there, I am Lindsay Ruth, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite lens ever. I love it. It is a Canon 14mm 2.8. It is very wide and wonderful to play with. This is the lens I use in pretty much all of my photos for about coming on 2 years now, which is crazy. Definitely not so common to be someone's primary lens, but I'm going to tell you why I love it so much and why I believe in 14mm supremacy. This lens, very wide. You can see, no you can't because it won't focus, but you can get the point of how huge this lens is. Obviously very wide. You can like literally see the glass here. It is wide, which opens up a lot of possibilities. If you do events, it's really good for shooting in like teeny tiny rooms, and you still are able to do a lot. It's really good for portraits, which you wouldn't think, but it's fun. The way it interprets natural light is really interesting, actually. I'm gonna include some examples, but you can shoot into the sun and it picks up the shadows in a really interesting, almost like kind of creamy way. It just looks really good. It's surprisingly flattering when you shoot directly into the sun or with direct sunlight. They both look really good. This lens, brand new, goes for around $2,000. I bought it used for around $700 from KEH, which is where I get most of my gear, or B&H, sometimes from Adorama, but I've found that KH has like the best deals for the best gear. I am a big believer in buying used photo equipment because that shit's expensive. It's really expensive. And like, I don't know about you, but I don't have thousands of dollars to spend on gear. So, used gear, our best friend. Lenses never depreciate in value because it's just a piece of glass. It's not a camera where the shutter is clicking and like wearing out over time. It is just a piece of glass. So unless it is cracked or chipped or whatever, it will always be the same. So there's like really no downside to buying used lenses in good condition, which KEH will tell you what condition it's in when you buy it. It's a little weighty. It's not too bad. I'm really bad at estimating weight, but I don't even want to guess. Probably like, it's like the weight of like a couple apples maybe. It's not terrible. It's not terrible, but it's not like gonna be, super light and airy like some of your lenses. So like, I don't know if you're a hiker or a landscape photographer going on some big trip. I don't know about this one. And I'm gonna talk about my favorite thing about this lens, which is, you guessed it, the distortion. We love it. I love the 14mm specifically because I have found that it's still wide and you still get that look without it being overly gimmicky. Like for example, a true fisheye, like an 8mm, something like that. It makes it a little more versatile. It makes it a little more freeing because there's less distortion than there would be for a wider lens, obviously. But what I love about this lens, the distortion is really fun to play with both outdoors and in the studio, which is what I do. All of my studio work, besides very, very few photos, are shot on this lens. So with this lens, the center of your frame is going to be the least distorted, and then anything that stretches out towards the edges will get stretched. So what I do is I position their face in the center, intentionally leaving half of the frame blank, and I will drag their body out towards the edge, placing their feet right by the bottom of the frame. And what that does, it's gonna stretch your subject out, and you can play into that distortion and make it your subject really like tall and long, which trust me, everybody loves to look like really, really tall. But playing into that distortion has kind of become like my whole shtick, and it's a really fun thing to play with. I find that as long as you leave the face in the center, that's the important part, because once you start to kind of move your framing around with the face, you're gonna get really weird distortion. And typically I find that with this lens, distortion in the face, unless it's absolutely your intention, looks pretty weird. This lens just really, the way it interprets light, the way it interprets color, it's really sharp, it's really freeing in that you can shoot in smaller spaces. I love her. Definitely an investment. I always recommend renting lenses before you make a big investment with a lens, just to, you know, double check, because this one definitely isn't the most user-friendly. It took me a while to get used to, and every time I give it to people to play with, it usually takes them a little bit of getting used to, but it's really fun, really amazing, a very unique studio lens, but I love it. Mama, she's my best friend. If you have any questions, please let me know. Subscribe to my channel. I'm sorry, I don't do this very often. That is all.